What if I told you that the chaos you're facing right now isn't a setback, but a signal, a divine alarm that something great is within reach? Most people quit during this phase right before the breakthrough, but the few who understand what's really happening, they rise. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to be one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a truth that will shake the dust off your complacency. Your greatest breakthrough is always preceded by your greatest resistance. That's not a motivational phrase. It's a law just like gravity. The moment before a rocket breaks through Earth's atmosphere is when it faces the most pressure. The same applies to your life. That confusion, that fatigue, that closed door, it's not rejection, it's resistance. And resistance is proof that you're moving in the right direction. But most people misunderstand this season. They quit, they curse it, they run from it, and they miss the very thing they were born to accomplish. Don't be most people. If you stay with me, I will walk you through exactly what this moment means, how to navigate it, and why it's the most critical phase in your journey to success. Every worthy goal, every enduring success, and every breakthrough of substance is preceded by a period of tremendous resistance. This resistance is not a mistake of fate, nor is it an enemy. It is, in truth, the final gatekeeper to greatness. Before the reward appears in material form, it must first be earned in the unseen realm through persistence, belief, and unshakable decision. Nature itself confirms this. The seed must break through the soil under pressure before it ever reaches the light. The child must wrestle through the narrow birth canal before it takes its first breath. The diamond must endure unimaginable heat and pressure to be formed. In every one of these cases, the struggle was not punishment, it was preparation. Take, for example, the story of Thomas Edison. He did not stumble into the electric light by a stroke of genius or a flash of luck. He battled through over 10,000 failed experiments in pursuit of a working light bulb. Imagine the resistance he faced not just in his laboratory, but in his mind. Friends doubted him. Investors lost patience. The world mocked his ambition. He stood at the edge of exhaustion, rejection, and failure for years. And yet he did not quit. Each failure was resistance pressing against him, testing the depth of his desire, the steel of his resolve. Had he walked away at attempt 999, the reward would have never materialized. But he understood what few are willing to accept, that resistance is the universe's way of asking, how badly do you want it? Only those with a definite purpose, those who resolve not to turn back, are found worthy to hold the prize. The same principle applies to any great endeavor, whether it is building a business, recovering from a failure, rising from poverty, or breaking a cycle that has plagued your family for generations. The moment you decide on a purpose that is larger than your present conditions, you will meet opposition. People may ridicule you. Doubt may whisper to you in the dark. Your old habits will try to drag you back. The road will not rise to meet you, it will resist you. But this is not the time to retreat. It is the moment to remember that resistance is a signpost that you are on the edge of transformation. Every ounce of effort you give in this stage, every step you take in spite of fear, adds weight to your character and draws you 1 inch closer to reward. When a plane takes off, it must generate enough lift to overcome gravity. In those early moments, engines roar at full capacity, not to cruise, but to break through. That moment when it seems like everything is shaking and fighting against the flight is when the most energy is required. Once the plane ascends, the resistance fades and the journey becomes smoother. So too it is with personal success. That shaking, that pressure, that opposition, it is the confirmation that you are attempting to rise. And you must not ease up when you feel resistance. That is when you must press harder because it means the reward is near. When an individual steps into a new season of growth, they often expect clarity, certainty, and immediate progress. But more often than not, what meets them instead is confusion and internal fog that clouds decisions, disrupts confidence, and throws formerly sure-footed plans into question. At first glance, confusion appears to be a defect in the plan. It feels like something has gone wrong, like you've lost your way or taken the wrong step. But this conclusion is born from a shallow understanding of how transformation works. In truth, confusion is not the enemy. It is the evidence that your old system of thinking is being dismantled, making room for something greater. When the mind is stretched beyond its comfort zone, when new beliefs begin to displace the old, and when your purpose begins to outgrow your previous limitations, the inner terrain becomes unsettled. That unsettled feeling is not a failure of direction. It is a signal of internal restructuring. Consider the metamorphosis of a caterpillar into a butterfly. During the chrysalis phase, the caterpillar essentially disintegrates inside its cocoon. Its old form breaks down entirely into a cellular soup. If you were to look inside during that stage, it would appear that the creature is not evolving but dying. There is no resemblance to a butterfly, only chaos. Yet within that confusion, the blueprint of transformation is already unfolding. Wings are forming. Antennae are growing. A new creature is taking shape, even though the process looks nothing like the result. The same process happens in the mind and soul of a person moving toward a higher vision. The beliefs that once served you begin to dissolve. The systems that brought you comfort now feel limiting. And in that in-between space where the old no longer works and the new is not yet visible, confusion reigns. But just like the cocoon, this phase is sacred. It is the space where identity is restructured and direction is redefined. Take the example of an entrepreneur who has experienced moderate success in a small business, running operations with a hands-on approach, managing every detail, making decisions by instinct. At a certain point, they feel drawn to scale their vision. They begin hiring a team, developing systems, expanding into new markets. But instead of feeling empowered, they feel overwhelmed. They second-guess every decision. They wonder if they're still cut out for this. Their confidence wavers not because they're failing, but because they're shedding the mindset of a small operator and stepping into the identity of a leader. The habits that once served them now feel like a burden. The clarity they once had is replaced with the discomfort of learning something new. In this transitional space, confusion becomes constant, but it is not a sign to quit. It is the friction of growth, the shaking of old mental structures being torn down so that new ones can rise. Without that disorientation, there is no evolution. Even in personal development, confusion plays a vital role. A person raised in an environment of fear, scarcity, or limitation may one day awaken to a higher vision of themselves, perhaps through reading, mentorship, or exposure to new ideas. At first, the light excites them. They make changes. They commit to a new path. But soon they feel the pull of their past. Voices from childhood, beliefs implanted through pain, doubts disguised as logic. The battle between their old self and emerging self creates deep internal noise. They feel lost, caught between two identities. But this inner conflict is not failure, it is the process of rebirth. The confusion is a necessary disruption, one that exposes false assumptions and invites the person to define themselves consciously for the first time instead of by default. What looks like a mess is actually momentum. Transformation is happening not outside of them, but within. One of the most deceptive obstacles in the path of success is delay. It is not loud like failure, nor final like rejection. It is silent, patient, and unnerving. A delay feels like a pause in motion, an unanswered prayer, or a closed door that doesn't explain itself. You plan with intention, work with discipline, and visualize with faith, only to find that what you are pursuing does not arrive on schedule. It is in these moments that many people begin to doubt the validity of their vision. They confuse delay with denial. They assume that the absence of arrival is evidence of futility, that the universe or fate or even God has decided against their desire. But such thinking stems from a shallow interpretation of time and purpose. Delays are not voids, they are assignments. They carry within them a sacred function, not to withhold your reward, but to prepare you to carry it. There is a certain maturity that can only be forged through waiting. When a goal is delayed, it invites introspection. It strips away entitlement. It reveals the areas within you that would have been destroyed by premature success. A blessing given too soon is a burden. Consider the child who inherits great wealth before they have acquired discipline or character. They squander what others labored to build. Or the athlete with raw talent who is pushed into fame before their mind is conditioned to handle pressure. They crumble under the weight of it. Success given too early destroys. But a delay, when rightly understood, becomes the forge that strengthens your character, sharpens your focus, and clarifies your purpose. It separates those who are merely interested from those who are deeply committed. If you cannot endure the pause, you are not yet prepared for the pace of what follows. Take the story of Colonel Harlan Sanders, the founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken. His now world-famous recipe was not an overnight success. In fact, it was rejected over 1,000 times before any restaurant agreed to adopt it. He had every reason to believe that time had passed him by. He was in his 60s, broke, and living out of his car. But the delay was not a verdict against his vision, it was a classroom. Each rejection taught him resilience. Each no refined his pitch, improved his method, and tested the depth of his desire. Had he been handed success on the first try, he would have been unprepared for the scale of what eventually came. It was the delay that built the man strong enough to steward the reward. What others saw as failure was, in truth, formation. Even in the natural world, we see this principle illustrated. The bamboo tree, when planted, shows no visible growth for 5 years. During this time, it is establishing a vast and deep root system underground. Then in the 5th year, it shoots up more than 80 feet in just a few weeks. The average observer would assume for those 5 years that nothing was happening. But beneath the surface, nature was laying the foundation for a rapid rise. Had the tree grown upward before growing downward, it would have collapsed under its own weight. So it is with people. When it seems like nothing is moving forward, when progress is invisible and momentum has slowed, it may be that life is rooting you deeply, preparing you for a level of influence or responsibility that cannot be supported by shallow foundations. The delay is not the death of the dream. It is the depth of the dream being developed in secret. There comes a time in the journey of every individual with a burning purpose when they find themselves separated from the crowd, not by choice, but by necessity. Conversations grow fewer. Invitations stop coming. Old friends drift. Familiar places lose their flavor. This sudden withdrawal from the noise of daily interaction can feel jarring, even personal. It tempts the mind to believe something is wrong. But this season of isolation is not a punishment, it is an invitation. It is life's way of pulling you away from distractions long enough to refine you. When the calling on your life is heavy, the preparation must be private. The noise of the crowd can affirm your ego, but it cannot sharpen your vision. For that, solitude is required. In isolation, your thoughts echo louder, your weaknesses are exposed, your beliefs are tested. But it is in that very space that clarity is born, strength is developed, and divine instruction is heard most clearly. Think of a sculptor working on a masterpiece. They do not carve in the middle of a marketplace. They retreat to their workshop, away from the eyes and opinions of the world, so they can labor without interruption. The greatest refinements in your character happen the same way. You are being sculpted in silence. What appears to others as a withdrawal is actually a drawing inward toward a deeper version of yourself. The world may see you as idle, forgotten, or even failing, but what is happening behind the curtain is sacred transformation. Your values are being redefined. Your priorities are being reshaped. The clutter is being cleared so that what remains is essential, and when you emerge, you will not come out the same. You will come out with power, with focus, with a message that carries weight because it was forged in silence. One of the most compelling examples of this truth is the life of Moses. Raised in the palace of Pharaoh, Moses had influence, education, and power. But before he could lead a nation, he was sent to the wilderness not for a week or a month, but for 40 years. Alone, tending sheep, with no audience and no applause. To the untrained eye, it appeared as though Moses had been disqualified, forgotten by destiny. But that wilderness was not punishment, it was preparation. It stripped away his pride. It sharpened his hearing. It trained him in leadership. By the time his true assignment arrived, he wasn't the Prince of Egypt. He was a man forged in solitude, ready to face Pharaoh not with position, but with authority. Had he remained in the palace, he would have carried status, but lacked the substance required to deliver his people. It was isolation that equipped him for impact. This pattern repeats in every life that produces lasting fruit. Writers retreat into silence before producing great works. Inventors disappear into years of experimentation before unveiling breakthroughs. Leaders withdraw from public life, often misunderstood, while their vision is being clarified. And ordinary people, in pursuit of extraordinary change, will often find themselves suddenly alone, not because they are unloved or unworthy, but because what they are building cannot be influenced by public opinion or contaminated by noise. The deeper the impact you are called to make, the more solitude you must endure. It is in isolation that the roots of greatness sink deep, anchoring you in truth, so that when storms come, as they surely will, you do not sway like those who built their lives on shallow affirmation. There is no greatness without pain, not the pain of defeat alone, but the deeper pain of becoming, the pain that comes when your soul is being stretched to fit a destiny that's larger than your present condition. It is a sacred kind of discomfort, often misunderstood and quickly resisted. Most people spend their lives avoiding pain, numbing it, covering it up, or pretending it doesn't exist. But pain, when viewed rightly, is not your enemy. It is a messenger, a teacher, and often the very trailhead that leads you toward your life's highest purpose. The wound you carry is not random. It points directly to the place you were born to bring healing, strength, and transformation to others. You must stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin asking, "What is this preparing me for?" Because no deep purpose is ever birthed from comfort. It is forged in fire. There are countless examples of men and women who turn their greatest pain into their greatest contribution. One of the most compelling is that of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. While imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps, Frankl lost his family, his possessions, his freedom, everything that gives a man security. He faced daily brutality, starvation, and psychological torment. But instead of allowing that pain to break him, he observed something extraordinary, that even in the most inhumane conditions, man could choose his attitude. He could choose meaning. From this crucible of unimaginable suffering, Frankl developed his life's work, Logotherapy, and wrote Man's Search for Meaning, a book that has helped millions discover purpose through suffering. Had he never experienced that depth of pain, he would not have uncovered the insights that changed the world. His suffering became his platform. His agony became his message. His pain, transformed through purpose, became a gift to humanity. And so it is with many. The person who battled depression becomes the voice that leads others to light. The child of abuse grows into the advocate who fights for the voiceless. The one who lost everything in financial ruin builds the blueprint for others to rise from failure. But this connection between pain and purpose is not automatic. It must be embraced. You must summon the courage to look pain in the face, not to resent it, but to understand it, to listen to what it is shaping in you. Pain invites you to ask deeper questions, to cultivate empathy, to see beyond the surface of life. It strips away superficiality and forces you into raw, unfiltered truth, and in that truth lies your message. You don't need to be perfect to lead. You need to be scarred, because the people you're meant to help won't be drawn to your image. They'll be drawn to your wounds and how you chose to rise from them. Purpose that lasts, the kind that changes lives, is rarely born from theory. It is born from experience. An experience that is marked by pain carries a weight of authenticity that cannot be imitated. This is why the stories that move us most are not the ones with perfect beginnings, but the ones that show triumph rising from trauma. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the diagnosis, the loss, these are not just chapters in your story. They are the fire through which your calling is being purified. The same hammer that threatens to destroy you can also forge you if you let it. Pain reveals what matters. It reveals your resilience. It reveals what you are uniquely equipped to speak into that others cannot. The courage to embrace pain is the courage to live fully awake, fully engaged, and fully responsible for the calling that has been assigned to your life. The most powerful journeys in life begin long before the destination comes into view. They begin in the unseen realm of belief, forged not by what the eyes can confirm, but by what the soul insists is possible. Faith in its truest form is not passive hope. It is the active force that builds a bridge between your current condition and your coming reality. It is the inner certainty that drives action in the absence of visible proof. Faith whispers to the heart, keep going, even when the path ahead is dark, when circumstances contradict the promise, when delay drains your strength and logic tells you to turn back. It is the foundation on which all great achievements are built, because before anything manifests in the physical world, it must first be constructed in the imagination, fortified by belief, and walked out through persistence. Faith is the substance that holds up that invisible bridge between the now and the not yet. Consider the life of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who stood in the midst of one of America's most hostile climates and declared, "I have a dream." He had no political office, no army, no guarantee of safety, and no certainty that he would live to see the change he envisioned. Yet he marched, he spoke, he wrote, and he led with unwavering resolve because faith had shown him a future that was more just, more humane, and more possible than the present moment could bear. His circumstances were filled with resistance, arrests, threats, and brutal opposition. But he did not allow present reality to dictate his direction. He walked by faith, not by sight, and though he did not live to walk across the full bridge himself, his faith laid the foundation upon which future generations could continue. His life stands as a monument to the truth that the space between vision and reality is crossed not by comfort, but by courageous belief. Faith, by its nature, does not require you to have all the details. It does not demand you see the full staircase before you take the first step. It only asks that you trust the next step enough to take it. And in that step, something powerful is set in motion. Doors that were previously closed begin to open. People you've never met are drawn into your orbit. Resources align. Circumstances shift. The invisible begins to move toward visibility, not because of coincidence, but because your belief gave it permission. Faith pulls the future into the present by making your current actions consistent with what you believe is coming. It is not fantasy, it is vision fueled by discipline. It says, I may not be there yet, but I am preparing, moving, and building as though it were already mine. That mindset alone separates those who merely wish from those who eventually walk in what they once imagined. In the journey of personal development or entrepreneurship or any major life transition, you will come to a point where logic fails you. Plans fall apart. People disappoint you. Results lag behind your efforts. It is in that space that many give up, not because they lacked skill or opportunity, but because they lacked belief. But if you understand that faith is the bridge, not an optional feeling, but a necessary vehicle, you will endure. You will keep building the business when no clients come. You will keep writing the manuscript when no one is reading. You will keep practicing the skill when no one is clapping, because you know something greater is ahead, and faith is the only passage to reach it. What separates the average from the exceptional is not that one had more talent. It's that one kept walking across the bridge long after the others sat down.